Welcome back to the CSC Garage. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to remove and install the front wheel on your ES5. And it only takes a few simple tools, so let's get to it. First thing I want to do is remove this brake caliper just to get it out of the way. You'll notice on the ES5 there are two hydraulic lines going into the caliper. That's because when you grab the rear brake, it's going to work the rear brake and the front brake simultaneously. But I'm going to use a 12mm socket to go ahead and get that off. Get those two mounting bolts out and then slide it out of the way. It can just hang there, no problem. Next, we're going to look at the axle. Now I'm going to use a 19mm socket for the axle nut, and then I'm going to hold the axle stationary with a 15mm wrench. Get that nut out and then pull the axle. You'll notice there is a washer on the back side of that nut. Jack that up a little bit and our front wheel is free. Now you'll notice the other end of the axle also has a washer, so I have a washer up against the head of that axle, and then also there'll be the washer that goes on before the nut. There's also two spacers. You've got a smaller spacer on the brake side and then a larger spacer on the non-brake side. Now we're ready to reinstall the front wheel, but before we do, I'm going to put a little bit of anti-seize. You could use grease as well on this axle, particularly the points that are going to be making contact with the spacers and the bearings. It's a light coating on there, and I'm also going to use some Loctite on those caliper mount bolts. So I'll go ahead and apply that before we start assembling things. So we've got our washer on the axle on one side. Slide that through. We're going to put our washer on this side. Then our axle nut. I'm going to use that 15mm to hold the axle stationary and the 19 to tighten the nut back down. And then I'm going to go ahead and torque this by hand. Get this somewhere between maybe 30 and 40 foot-pounds. Now we want to put the caliper on. We're going to make sure that both brake pads are on either side of the disc. We're going to make sure everything's lined up, that this inner pad is still mounted over this. We want to make sure that that brake's going to function properly. So we'll slide it back over. And then I'm going to use that 12mm socket to put the mounting bolts in. And again, I'll go with the feel of my hand for the torque. I'm going to get this somewhere around 20 to 25 foot-pounds. Thanks for joining us once again at the CSC Garage. I've enjoyed showing you just how easy it is to remove and install the front wheel on your ES5. Be sure to stay tuned for more tech videos, and until next time, enjoy the ride.